Medea writes, "Many years ago, I left my father and his country for the man I loved. I betrayed them all and left everything I knew to be with Jason. I never regretted it. We have two beautiful children, a lovely home, lots of money, and everything I could wish for. Suddenly, everything shattered when he left me for a much younger daughter of a king. I'm heartbroken, literally. I can't stop wailing. My housekeeper told me she fears for my sanity. What should I do? Medea." So Medea is writing to us about a pretty dramatic and terrible situation, and what we're going to do is we're going to pull 3 cards to give her a sense of some things she can do to deal with this situation, things that she can do to handle it. So the first one is Justice, and then we've got the 8 of Pentacles, and we've got the Fool reversed. So, these are 3 pretty interesting cards as always. Justice appearing here is pretty interesting, I think, because Medea probably feels a huge sense of injustice right now. So we might expect to see the Justice reversed here. But because this is an advice reading, I'm going to suggest that maybe Justice is showing us a way of behaving while we experience this pain. So as Medea mentioned, she's felt shattered. She can't stop crying. Her housekeeper's worried about her. And I think in this instance, Justice is counseling her to behave the way that Justice does. She's still, she's stayed, she's careful, and she's balanced. And the veil in the card feels like it's always an important piece of the image, but here, I wonder if maybe it's suggesting wearing a metaphorical veil before the world. Now, it may only be an outward show that things are fine, but it's about maybe maintaining a reputation. There's also something to be said for that kind of magical thing that happens when we act as though we feel something we don't. Sometimes we start to feel it. So there might be the sense that behaving in the way that Justice does, rather than taking justice into our own hands, could help us feel the way the card does. Feel balanced, feel sane. Justice is still, she's got a defensive sword here. She's not unprotected, but she's not on the offense. She's not actively going out there and seeking her own justice. This card is part of the Major Arcana, and there's a rich vein running through it, of course, because of that. And I think it might say, too, that sometimes justice is. That even though we don't feel like it's active in our lives, something may be working out there in the world that is defending us, or that's creating our own sense of justice without our own participation in it. So maybe the wheels of justice are turning for Medea, and she doesn't realize it. Now, the 8 of Pentacles here is a pretty fascinating card, because this is something that I always associate with work. Not just work, in particular, sort of an artisanal work, an artisan's work, someone who's clearly very skilled. And my instinct is to say that perhaps this means that Medea should maybe turn her attention to the skills that she possesses as a method of dealing with the situation. It may also mean that she has to turn her attention away from the dramatics she's feeling at the end of this relationship because she has to focus on providing for her family. She now is the sole supporter, and she mentioned she has 2 children. And Jason has left them. So that may be part of the puzzle. She needs to focus on what her particular skills are and what she can do to support her family. And she'll have to do this work herself. It may also suggest that maybe there's something that she's particularly good at, some craftsmanship or something she's really adept at, that could maybe give her purpose again outside of the relationship, that may make her feel like she is a complete person outside of the relationship that she had. Finally, we have the Fool reversed, and this seems pretty clear. I think the card in this position seems to say that we need to avoid doing anything rash. The Fool is often one of my favorite cards because he's free, he's in the moment, he has no past or future, but because he's reversed, I think it's saying to be the opposite of that. To be careful, to be considerate, to think, to consider the long-term ramifications of anything before doing it. In many ways, the way I feel like Justice is saying that. I think the Fool is sort of reiterating that. It may be saying, don't be foolish. Don't be all action. Think about things. So there we have some things that Medea can do to help her get through this time. She can maybe focus on the fact that justice may be alive and well in the background of life, even though she doesn't feel it. It may also suggest that a really good way to start dealing with this is to behave in the way that justice does, particularly being very balanced, not being undefended, not being weak, but being balanced. And maybe even, this veil suggests that it's time to wear the veil of sanity and safety and stability, even though we don't feel it. And that maybe behaving that way may help us start to feel finally like we're moving on. The Eight of Pentacles may mean that it's time to focus on providing for the family, on providing for her children, on turning her attention to work. Again, maybe that'll help her think about something other than the dramatic relationship. It may also say, because I think this card has a lot to do with those things that we are particularly meant to be doing, that there's something she's particularly good at in life that may be a source of income for her, or that may help her just feel like a whole person again. And then finally, the Fool card seems to say not to do anything rash, not to be all forward motion, to think carefully, to be thoughtful, and to sort of do the opposite of what the Fool does. So there we have our reading for Medea, and we hope things work out for her.